Cool. All right, now let's get back to it. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the data, and I'm going to talk you through what we mean by central measures. Now, central measures just basically tells you where your data is centered. Okay, so for this graph here that I've drawn first up here, it's kind of easy to see where it's centered because it's symmetrical. If you draw a line down the center, we would say that's where it's kind of centered. Pretty much everyone in this room must have heard of one central measure, and that is the average. Okay, we know this because often in the real world, we want one number to summarize the overall result. So if I asked you how did the class do for an exam, and I wanted one number to illustrate that, most of us would just say use the average of the entire class, right? So we would take the average score, and that would be representative of how the class performed. Now that average is an example of a central measure, but there's more than just the mean or the average. Another word for average is mean. So if I use them, just know that they're the same thing. There's more than just one way to describe where the data is centered. Okay, so the mean is one way, and we're going to discuss other ways as well. Okay, but let's do it with data, because this is kind of how you're going to be tested about it. Okay, so I'm going to erase all of this. So on the left, what we have is credit card spending. Okay, so we have the first customer that spends 4,500 Rand. The second customer spends 5,200. Third customer also spends 5,200, and so on and so on. Okay, so we have 5 customers, and this is their spending. Now, one thing I need to draw your attention to is that you are not guaranteed that the data is going to be ordered. I ordered it for you just for illustrative purposes and to save some time. But just note, when you are given data, order it yourself. Okay, you need to order it because you're going to have to derive some values from it when the data is ordered. Okay, so make a note of that. But in this case, I have ordered it already for you. So customer 1 spent the lowest, 4,500, with customer 5 spending the highest, and ranking in that order. All right, so what we want to do is we want to work out the average. Okay, now some of us may know how to work out the average, and that's by summing up all the values. So you add up 4,500 plus all the way to the last value, which is 5,800. And we divide by the number of customers. So there's 5 customers and we get the average. But we're not going to do it that way. We're going to use our calculator, and we're going to get used to the stats function. All right, so everyone have your calculator out, and I'm going to walk you through how to use the stats mode. So the first thing you want to do with your calculator, okay, is obviously switch it on, and you're going to set up the stats mode. So I'm going to come back to the chat and just check if anyone's stuck here about this, right? So once you have your calculator on, what I want you to do is I want you to press Shift. So I'll write it on the board. Press Shift on your calculator. And I'm assuming everyone has the Casio, okay? If you have the Sharp, then I'm not too familiar with how to use that. But this is for the Casio calculator. Press Shift, then press the mode button. Okay, so you'll press Shift, press the mode, and you'll see a whole lot of options. What I want you to do is, if you don't see the stats function as an option, so you have like 1, 2, 3, all the way to 8 options. If you don't see stats there, what I want you to do is, with the cursor key, that is that big blue button that has arrows in it, press it to go down. Okay, and then you'll see more options. And then you should see an option that says stat. When you see that, select it. If it's option 3, press 3. And you should have an option that says frequency. Do you want it on or do you want it off? And we want it on. Okay, so you're going to choose option 1 where it's on. If on is an option 2, then press 2. But we want the on option. So you'll select that. Okay. I'm going to come back to the chat and see if anyone's stuck. Assume everyone's okay with this, but let me know otherwise. Okay, so now what you've done is you've set up your calculator. We're doing our calculations. All right, you won't have to do this again. Once it's set up like this, you don't have to do this again the next time you switch your calculator on. Okay, now let's go back to our data, and we're going to capture this data. All right, so what we're going to do is, all right, I'm going to clear my whiteboard. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to press the mode button. All right, and you're going to choose the option that says stat, which is option 2 on my calculator. It should be the same on yours. All right, then you're presented with a number of options, and I want you to find the option that says 1 minus variables, and that should be option 1. If that is, then press 1. And now everyone should see this on the calculator, a column with X and a column with frequency. If no one sees that, let me know. I'm assuming everyone's good. Okay. Kelly?
Hi there. I'm
Thumbs
so
up?
sorry.
No worries.
My Wi-Fi like kind of made you kind of stutter a little bit. So
Okay.
after frequency is on, where do I go?
Okay. So you will press the on button. Okay. Then press mode. Then you should see stat as option 2. If it is option 2, press 2.
Yes,
Then
so
you'll
I've got frequency on already. So I've done all the way from shift to selecting stat to putting frequency on. After that, how do I get the column you said that we would see?
okay. That's what we're doing now. Okay, so press on in your calculator. All right. So now press on, you press mode, and then choose stat option 2. Are you with me so far?
Yes, thank you.
And then do you see an option that says 1 minus bar? Kelly, do you see that?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Cool. Then you will select that one. If that's 1 minus bar, it should be option 1. Press 1, and then we'll see this X and a frequency. Do you see that?
I got it. Thank you so much.
No worries, no worries. Okay, great. Anyone else? I don't want anyone to be lost on this. Okay, I want everyone to be on the same page. Okay, so everyone's calculator should see a column with X and a column with frequency. And what we're going to capture for the X is our data. So that means this is our X column. Okay, we don't care about this here. We do not care about this customer number. That's just an index, all right? And if you look at your calculator, it already has an index column. It's got 1, 2, 3, etc. going down. So under X, that's where we're going to capture our credit card spending. So for customer 1, we're going to enter 4,500, and then you're going to press equals to. That's like your computer has enter. This equals to is like your enter key. So you will capture 4,500 and hit equals to. And you immediately see that the cursor moves to the next block, row 2. And that means you're ready to capture your next data point, which is 5,200. So that's what we're going to do, capture 5,200, and then hit equals to again. And then we're going to do that all the way to the last data point. So I want you to do that now, capture 5,200, hit equals to, then the next customer was 5,200 again, hit equals to 53, and then lastly 58. And you should have 5 data points there. Okay. Just give me a thumbs up once you're done. Okay. Shyama, is that a thumbs up or are you raising a hand to a question? Okay, I'm assuming all good. Okay, you would have captured all your data. Awesome. Great. Okay, once you captured all the data, once you've got all these data points stored, you would see that your frequency was getting automatically populated with 1. And don't worry about that. We don't need that right now. Okay, and I'll tell you when that does become important. All right, so once you've captured all your data, all right, you've got the 5 data points there, you can press on if you want. You can press the button on, and that does not mean that your data has been deleted. Okay, and I'll show you how to check whether your data has been deleted. So what we're going to do is we're going to check that our data is still there. So we're going to press the shift button. Then you are going to press the button 1, because above that is the stat function. So whenever you press shift, you're calling the function above the button. So we want to call the stat function above the 1 button. And then you'll see an option that says data. It should be option 2 in your calculator. If it's another option, it doesn't matter, but we want the data option. If you press 2, if that's where data is, you will see your data pop up again. And so you know your data has not been deleted. Okay. All right. And you can press on again. All right. Now we are going to work out the average or the mean. And we're going to do that without having to sum the data, because your stats calculator can do that for you now. We just need to know what
Hi,
is the
Daryl.
sum. Yeah.
Could you
Yes.
please repeat after we press shift, how do we check the data again?
Press shift, then press the button 1, the number 1.
Okay, got it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
then choose data, no problem. All right. Okay, so everyone press on in the calculator. Let's everyone start from the same page. Everyone start with 1. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to get the average. And the symbol for the average is the symbol here, X bar. Okay. Now we need to find that symbol using our calculator. So how we're going to do that is we are going to press shift, then press the number 1 on your calculator. Then you will see an option that says bar. Okay. Select that, which is var. And then you'll see the symbol X bar. So select that symbol. If that symbol is option 2, press 2. And then hit equals to. Does everyone get a value of 5,200? As the mean? Anyone got stuck? Anyone want me to repeat that? I'll repeat it just to be safe. Okay, I'll go to it again. Okay, so I'm going to clear this. Hold on. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to find the average. Okay, we're going to find the average. So the steps to do that, okay, is you're going to, okay, let's start from scratch. We'll press on in our calculator. All right. Okay, then we'll press the shift button. Then we'll press 1. Then we'll choose the option that says var. That actually means variables. If that's option 4, then that's what you'll press. You'll press 4. And then you'll see X bar. Whatever number is next to it, if 2 is next to it, that's what you're going to press. You're going to press 2 because you want to select that option. Right? Then you'll see X bar, and then you'll just hit equals to. You'll see this on the top, just press equals to. and you should get 5,200. Okay. Chat. Very good. Yes, that's right, Lugo. 5,200. Okay, so that's how you'll use the stats function to get your mean. Okay, this helps if you got a large number of data points, and it's also going to help when we start working with group data. So far, the data that I've presented you with here, it's not grouped, it's the raw data. So you actually know exactly what each customer spent. This is an example of ungrouped data. So you've worked out the average. Now, whenever you're answering the assignment or the exam, when you work this out, you need to provide a statement to show that you're interpreting the problem. So you've worked out the average, okay? So just like what we did, X bar equals 5,200. And how we would interpret that is we would provide a statement, and we would say, on average, customers spend 5,200. If the units were in rands, they never give us the units, but if it was in rands, we'll just say 5,200 rands. All right, that's how you interpret it. Now, we've worked out the mean. So the mean, also known as the average, is one type of central measure. It's the same thing as your average. Another measure for the central measure is the median. Okay, now the median is a bit different. The median is just the center number, the middle number. So if you look at our data, right, I'm going to rewrite it just horizontally. So the first customer spent 4,500. That was the lowest spend. The next highest value is 5,200. The next highest value is 5,200 again. Then 5,3, and then 5,8. So these are the 5 amounts. Now, because there's 5 values, it's kind of easy to pick up where the middle number is. And some of us can just see it. We can see it here. This is the middle number. Why? Because you got 2 on the left and you got 2 numbers on the right. So this has to be the middle number. And that's your median. Okay, so your median is 5,200. Okay, now instead of just eyeballing it, like how we just did, it's nice to have a system to actually work this out. Because if we, for now, because I only gave you 5 numbers, it's kind of easy to spot it. But if I gave you 11 numbers, it might not be easy. If I give you 50 numbers, it also might not be easy. So we need to kind of develop a system to figure out where this number lies. Okay, so what we would do is first, we want to determine what its position is. So what I mean by position is it in position 1? Is it in position 2? Is it in position 3, etc.? Okay, and how we work out the position for the median is we use this formula here, n plus 1 over 2. And what the n is, it's the number of data points you have. In our case, we have 5 data points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So n is 5. So if we substitute 5 for n, we get 5 plus 1 over 2, and that gives you 6 over 2, which is 3. So that tells you what position. That's the third position, which is why this is the median, because it's the third, it's the number corresponding to the third position. All right. Now, the example I gave you is kind of easy to do because we got a pretty number here. We got as in 3, right? But let's say, hypothetically, instead of 5 people, there were 6 people. All right, so now let's say the data that we got, it started off at 4,500. So let's consider the same data, but just an extra value. So there was a 6th customer. 5,8. And then there's an extra customer who spent 6,000. So now we have 6 customers. All right. So now it's not so clear what the middle number is. because you have an even number of numbers. Okay, so if you look at it, you have 1, 2, 3 customers, 4 customers, 5. You have 6 customers. But we are still going to use the same formula to find the position. So we're going to use n plus 1 over 2. Now in this problem, we have 6 customers. All right, we can see that we have 6 customers. So that's our n. So if we substitute 6 into this formula, we're going to have 6 plus 1 over 2, which is 3.5. Now we got a decimal here. Now, how do we use that decimal? Okay, because if it was a perfect 3, we would have taken the third customer, but it's not. It's 3.5. So what that means is it's halfway between the third and the fourth customer. It's halfway between them. All right, so that means the median lies halfway between the third and the fourth customer. And so how we work out that mid value between the third and fourth customer is we add up the third customer value, which is 5,200, plus the fourth customer value, which is 5,300, and we divide it by 2 to get the middle value or the midpoint. And if you work that out, you'll get 5,250. And that's the median. So that's how you do it if you got an even number of data points. And this is how you would do it. You do it the same way if you had an odd number, but it's easier when it's an odd number because you don't have to do this extra step of working out the midpoint. You can just pull out the value. Let me just go back to the chat. Everyone understands that? How to work with the median? I'll just recap that. So first step for the median, you must rank the data. That means you must order it lowest to highest. If it's an odd number, it's going to be very easy. You're still going to use this formula to find the position, n plus 1 over 2. Whatever the position is, if it's a perfect whole number like here, it's 3, you just take the third number, which is 5,200. Okay, in the second scenario, when it's an even number of customers or data points, you still use the same formula. You're going to get a value with a decimal, and that's okay. All that means is that you look at the third number, because that's the number in front of the decimal, and then you look at the fourth number, and you take the value in between them, the midpoint value, like what we've done here. And how we interpret that, now the median is the middle value, okay? It's the value right in the middle of your data. And so what that means, okay, so if I'm going to remove this, let me erase everything here. Let's class it. Okay, so when we worked at our median, okay, remember we ranked our data. It's 4,500, 5,200, 5,200, 5,300, and then 5,800. And we worked at our median to be, no, it was 5,200, the middle value. Okay, so what that means, because the median is the middle number, that means half of our data lies below that. So half of the data lies below that, and half of the data lies above it. That's what we mean by the middle value. So that means 50% of customers spent 5,200, whether it's rands or dollars, doesn't matter, 5,200 and less. Does that make sense? If that's your halfway point, that's how you would interpret it. Okay, cool. Thanks for the feedback. All right, so we worked out the median, which is 5,200. We already worked out the mean. You used your calculator to get that. That was also 5,200. All right, now there's the third value. And that's the mode. That's the third way of measuring central tendency. The mode is actually very easy to calculate. It actually doesn't even require calculation. All right. What you need to do is you do need to rank your data from lowest to highest. And why you need to do that is because you need to see which number occurs the most number of times. Now, because I rank the data for you, lowest to highest, you can see that the number 5,200 occurs twice. Everything else occurs once, but 5,200 occurs twice. So that is the mode because it occurs the most number of times. So in our case, the mode is also 5,200 because it is the most frequent value. So in other words, it is the most frequent spend amount by customers. All right, so our mode happens to be the same as our median, which also is the same as our mean. Now, coming back to the shape of a distribution, all right? If you know these three values, you can actually determine what shape that distribution is. So the one shape of the distribution, okay, is symmetrical. So it's like a draw a line down the center, or where the peak is. If I draw a vertical line down the center, your right-hand side will look exactly like the left-hand side. And this is an example of a symmetrical distribution. All right. And for symmetrical distribution, the mean is the same as the median, which is the same as the mode. So if you found your mean, you found your median, and you found the mode, if they're all the same, then that means that the distribution is symmetrical. And in our case, it is symmetrical because you can see all three values are the same. Right? Your mean, your median, and your mode are the same. So that means our distribution is symmetrical. If, however, the order is this way, so I'm going to sketch another graph. Okay. So here the highest point is there. I'll draw a vertical line down. Here, where your highest point is, that'll always be where your mode is. Okay, so your mode is there, right? The middle value on the left will be your median, and then is your average. So if your average is the lowest, so it's less than the median, and the median is less than the mode, then it is negatively skewed. Let me rewrite them. Negatively skewed. And then in the opposite. So the last one is when the order is the other way. So here, it's positively skewed. So it means it's pulled to the right. The highest point is here, and that's where our mode is. So here, the mode is on the left. Then in the middle, we have our median. And then lastly, at the end, we have our average or mean. So here, the mode is the smallest, the median is the middle, and the mean is the largest. Okay, and when that happens, then it's positively skewed. Okay, so you need to, once you figure out what the median is, what the mean is, and what the mode is, look at the order of them. And you can just memorize it one way. If you know that the mean is the smallest value, if the mean is the smallest value, then it's negatively skewed. It's this graph. But if the mean is the largest value, then it's positively skewed. And if they're all the same, this is the easy one to remember. If they're all the same, then it's symmetrical. Okay, so I'm going to quiz you now, right, on this. Okay, so I'm going to give you some data here, which is why I wanted you to have your calculator. Okay, let's say I gave you these data points. Okay. Give me a second. So you had these values. Okay, so say you had 4,500, 4,500 again, 4,750, 5,400, and the last value is 5,410. All right, so these 5 values. All right, so say this is your data that was given to you in your exam. Right, you'd have to work out the mean, the median, and the mode. So I'm going to just work out the mean for you and give it to you. What I want you to do is I want you to work out the median and the mode. Okay, so your mean is 4912. I want you to work out the median now. What is it? What is the mode? Okay, and once you got that, tell me what shape the distribution is. Is it symmetrical? Is it positively skewed? Or is it negatively skewed? That's your options. Is it option 1, option 2, or is it option 3? Okay, so I worked out the mean for you. I want you to work at the median, and I want you to work at the mode. Okay, so I've ranked the data for you, so it makes it easier. So give it a bash now. Remember, if the mean is the largest value, the mean is the largest, then it's positively skewed. Okay, let's just check where everyone is on this, right? So I worked out the mean. Does everyone understand that the median is this value? This is your median. Okay, that's your middle value. Okay, we can see n plus 1 over 2, the position is, if you substitute 5, because you have 5 numbers, into this, then you'll get 3. So the third number is your median. The mode is your median is 4750. Your mode is the most common number. And you can see that 4,500 occurs the most amount of times. So that's 4,500. Okay, so what we have, if we had to rank them, you can see the mode is 4,500. The median is 4750. And the mean is 4912. So let's rank it as lowest to smaller, lowest going to highest. The lowest value is your mode. The next highest value is your median. Okay, because your mode was 4,500. Your median is 4750. And your mean is 4912. Okay, stay there for a second. So if I give you the poll, let's see. I was going to gauge what the class understands in this case. So I'm gonna shape distribution. What's your vote? So is it symmetrical? Is it positively skewed? Or is it negatively skewed? We'll stop sharing here. And I'd like everyone to give this quiz a bash. So remember, the order is your mode is the smallest, your median is the middle, and your mean is the largest. Okay. Cool. All right. That's a sufficient response. Okay, let's say we got 86% being positively skewed. No one says symmetrical. Very good. All right, let's go back to chat, to the board. Okay, so remember, the mode is the smallest, median is the middle, and then X bar is the largest. So like I said earlier, when your mean is the largest value, your mode will always be below the highest point. So the highest point in the graph, there's your mode. So you can see the mode comes before the mean, so it's the smallest, and the median will always be in the middle. Okay, so in this case, it is positively skewed because we have this shape graph. If it is the other way around, if your mean was the smallest, then it's negatively skewed. So yeah, most of the class seems to understand it. For those that voted for negatively skewed, just let me know if you understand why it is positively skewed now. If you're still not sure, please let me know in the chat or unmute. Okay, please. That's what I'm here to help for. Okay, so I showed you how to work out the mean, the median, and the mode. But we've done it so far only for ungrouped data. What I mean by ungrouped data, you are given the raw data value like this. Okay, but you're not always guaranteed to be given the data like this. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'll show you what group data looks like. And you may have seen this because you may have seen it in your earlier material in this course. So in Learning in One, summarizing data. Okay, so here you create a frequency table. So let's say you were given data like this, and what this data tells you, I'll explain it now. If I draw your attention to this, the first row here, okay, what this says is that we have customers that spend between 0 and 400 Rand. Okay, the square brackets means we include 0. The round bracket means we don't include 400, so it's just under 400. So it could be 399. So we only have one customer that spends that amount. Okay, so we have one customer that spends 0 to 400, but we don't know how much that customer spends. That customer could spend 200 Rand, could spend 220, could spend 390. We don't know the amount. All we know is that they spend in that range. Okay, so now we don't know the raw data. Okay, so that's what I mean by group data versus raw data. In the next row, we have 7 customers that spend between 400 and 800 Rand. All right, And that's what we have for group data. All we know is the range they spend and how many of them spend in that range. And based on this data, we need to work out the mean. All right, so that's the first central measure. And I'm going to talk you through how to do that now. We're going to do that in our calculator, and fortunately, all of us have set up our calculator to do it for us. All right, so what you're going to do is, and I'm just going to erase this, and you'll just follow along with the instructions on the calculator. All right, so with your calculator, we need to erase the data we already stored for the previous exercise. Okay, so with your calculator, what I want you to do is press the mode button. Press mode. And then choose the option that says stat. And it should be option 2, but whatever number is next to it, that's what you press. So you would press 2. And you will now see the option again that says 1 minus bar. It should be option 1. And if you see that, then select 1. Press 1. And now you'll see a new table with no data, with X being here and frequency on this column. I'm going to go back to the chat to just see if anyone's stuck. But if you couldn't get to that in your calculator, please let me know. All right, so let's go back here. Okay, now we have an X column and we have a frequency column. All right, now we are going to have to capture something in the frequency column. And that's this column here. All right, so all I want you to do is I want you to move the cursor, okay, that big blue button with the arrow to the right, so that the cursor moves here in the frequency column. Move it there. And that first value you're going to capture here is what we have in our table, frequency, which is 1. So we'll press 1 and then press equals to. Right? Then you're going to do the same thing for the next row. The next row you're going to capture 7 and hit equals to. Okay, so do that all the way to the last value, which is 1. Okay, do that for me. And just give me a thumbs up in the chat to see if you're finished. I just want to make sure everyone's finished. So you need to capture all the frequency values going down here. Let's go back. Cool. Great. I'll go back to it. Okay, so everyone captured all the frequency values. Okay. Now, if you captured all the frequency values, you would have seen that your calculator just automatically populates 0 here. Okay, but we're going to change that. Okay, we don't want zeros there. Okay, so I'm going to show you what values to capture for X. Now, the X values, what we need to capture, are actually the midpoints for your intervals. So what is the halfway point between 0 and 400 here? And that's 200. Okay, so the halfway point between 0 and 400 is simply found by taking 400, the maximum value, plus the smallest value, divided by 2. And that's 200. That's your X value. For the next range, the halfway point is 600. Then it's 1,000. Then the halfway point for the next one is 1,400. Then 1,800. And lastly, 2,200. Okay, so that's your X values. And that's what you're going to capture here. So you're going to move your cursor to your X value right in the top. You use your cursor, the blue arrow button, until it gets the first row. And in that first row, you're going to capture 200. Then you're going to press equals to as an enter. Then you're going to capture 600 and so on until you get to the last value, which is 2,200. And then you would have captured all the data you need. Okay, so give that a shot. Okay, once you've done that, just give me a thumbs up in the chat. So, oh, awesome. Okay, if anyone's stuck, please let me know. All right, once you've captured this data, okay, you've captured all of it, okay, you can press the on button. So you can press on and your data will still be there. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to get the mean, and it's exactly the same like how we did it earlier. Okay, so if any of you remember, you can give it a shot instead of me explaining it again, but I'll talk you through it again now. So you can try and get X bar, right? Because that's what we want. We want the average. So you can give it a shot if you remember what we did earlier, but if not, I'll talk you through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to press Shift, then you're going to press the button 1, then you're going to see the option that says var, which is option 4, and then we'll select 4, and then you'll see your X bar. Select that, and then hit equals to. If that's option 2, then press 2. And everyone should have a value of, I believe, 106.4.52 rounded. So your X bar should be 1064.52. I'm rounding it to 2 decimals. And that's the average grocery spend. Cool. And new. Okay, then I think you may have captured a wrong data value. Okay, just give me a thumbs up for those that got 1064.52 as the average. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So I'm going to go back to the data set. Okay, so this is what you should have for your X values in your calculator. Okay, so 1 second. You would have had 200. You would have 600, 1,000, 1,400, 1,800, 2,200. So on your calculator, that's what you should have. So if you want to double check that, remember, you can press on in your calculator. Just press the button on. Okay, then press Shift. Then press 1. Then choose the option that has data. So you can see your data. If that's option 2, press 2. And check that your data corresponds to what you have here. Remember, your calculator has X first and then frequency. Okay, so make sure you can swap it around. So your X value should be on the left, and it should be this column. And your frequency values will be on the right in your calculator. This column is not given to you. In your exam, you have to work it out. Okay, so that's why it's generally on the right of your frequency, because you're going to have to work this out. But your calculator wants that first. Okay, so look at your data and check that it's the same as what you have here. And the only reason your average will be different is because your data is different. Otherwise, you should have the same average as this if we both capture the same data. It makes sense? It's just important that you understand the error. It's not so much making the error, it's understanding why. If it's just a matter of a wrong data capture. Everyone good? Any questions before we move on? Cool. All right, let's move on. Okay, so just like for ungrouped data, there were 3 central measures. Okay, there's the mean. Okay, so there's the mean, right, or X bar, which you've done already. Then there's the median. Okay, that's what we're going to do next. Now for group data, we have to use a formula. Now the formula may seem a bit daunting, but just remember it's given to you. You don't need to memorize this formula, all right? And in your textbook, if you have the 6th edition, it's on page 79. I'm going to write out the formula, okay? So for the 6th edition, it's page 79 for the 6th edition. And if you're on the 5th edition, it's on page 76. If you're on the 5th edition. All right, so the formula for the median is ME, which is just short for median, equals OME plus C into N over 2 minus F of less than, close brackets, all over FME. Like I said, it may seem a bit daunting, I understand, but just keep in mind, you don't need to memorize this formula. The only important thing is you understand how to use the formula. Okay, all right, so I'm going to talk you through this formula, what everything means in it, and how to find the values and work it out. Okay, so because our data is grouped, right, what we need to determine is if there was a median, then which interval would it fall in? Remember, if you count the number of customers we have here, so we have 1 customer in this group, then we have 7 customers here. So altogether, when we move to the 2nd row, we have 8 customers. When we get to the 3rd row, we would have 1 plus 7 plus 14. We would have 22 customers. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a cumulative column here. This is your cumulative frequency column. And I'm just going to add the numbers as we go down. So 1 plus 7 is 8. Then 1 plus 7 plus 14 is 22. Then 22 plus 5 is 27. Then we have 30. And then we have 31. So all together, if you add up your frequency column, you get the total number of customers. All right. So the total number of customers is 31. So that's our N. Okay, we have 31 customers. And so if we had 31 customers, the middle value would be the customer that's in the middle. So how do we work out the position for the median? Now remember, when we did ungrouped data, to find the position, we used N plus 1 over 2. Now we're going to do pretty much the same thing for group data. Unfortunately, the formula is slightly different. It should be consistent, but it's not my choice. Okay, I just need you to know this. All right. It actually should be consistent, but some methods prefer to use a different formula when you're using group data. So instead of the plus 1 for group data, it's just the N. We remove the plus 1. It's just N over 2. Most of the time, it gives you the same result if the data is large, most of the time. But I want you to remember this, okay? And it is unfortunate, but I didn't make the rules for this, unfortunately. What I want you to remember is for ungrouped data, when you're working out the position for the median, it's N plus 1 over 2. But for group data, it's N over 2. So there's no plus 1. Okay, now with that being said, because we're dealing with group data, we're going to use the n/2 formula. So it's 31 customers over 2. And if you work that out, you will get 15.5. So let's round it up, because you can't get like a 15.5 customer when you're dealing with group data, because your frequency is whole numbers. So we'll round it up, always round it up to 16. So we're looking for the 16th customer. Now, where would the 16th customer lie? Which interval would that customer be in? Well, let's use this cumulative column to figure that out, this column here. So if you're in the first row, if you're here, there's no way the customer will be here because you only have one customer. When you get to the second row, you still can't have the 16th customer because you only have 8 customers in total when you get to this point. However, when you get to this column, you have 22 customers in total because you have 1 plus 7 plus 14. So you have a 22. So you would have exceeded the 16th customer. That 16th customer has to be here. He has to be in this interval. There's no way you can be here because you have too few customers. No way the customer can be there because it's still too little. It's only here that that customer has to be. So this is your median interval. So it's very, very important that you're able to identify that interval. I'm just going to go to the chat and make sure everyone followed what I said. If there's any questions on that. Okay. I'll explain it again, but just shout if there's any questions. Okay. So for the median value, we need to know where would the middle customer be if we had to rank them in order. And we look at the frequency going down. Okay. We need to know what is the middle value. So we only can know that if we know how many customers there are in total. There are 31 customers in total. Okay, and that's by adding up the frequency column. So the middle value is 31 over 2, which is 15.5. We round it to 16. And then we try and figure out where would the 16th customer lie as we go down the intervals. And if you do that, we can see that that customer cannot be in the first interval because 16 is much bigger than 1. And in the first row, or the interval, you only have 1 customer. When you get to the second interval, you have 8 customers because we add up 1 plus 7 gives you 8. That's why we got this cumulative column. It makes it easier for us. And then if you get to the third column, that's where you can have the 16th customer because you got 22 customers already. So you would have exceeded that number, and the first number that exceeds 16, that would be the interval. So this is our median interval. This is our median interval. I'm gonna circle it because pretty much all the values we need for our formula depends on that interval. Now we'll start using this formula. So the OME, that first value that you see there, this value here, all that means it's the lowest value of that interval. It's the lowest value of the median interval. And if you look at the median interval, the lowest value it can take is 800. Okay, so that OME is 800. The next symbol in this formula is C, and that is your class width. It's how wide the class interval is. That's easy to determine because if you look at the interval, it goes from 800 to 1200. So the width of that interval is just taking the maximum, which is 1200, and subtracting the lowest value, which is 800. And that's how wide that interval is. So it's 400. That's your C. Okay, so we know our OME, we know our C, N we already did. We did it here earlier. N is 31. Then we have the symbol here, which I'm going to circle in green, because although it has brackets, it's actually just one symbol. This whole thing here is just one symbol. Okay, so this f of less than, it's one symbol, but all it means, it just means what is the total frequency or the sum of the frequency before this interval. So if you add up, see, these are the intervals before the median interval. Okay, so there's our median interval. If you look at all the intervals before that, what is the sum of the frequencies? So what is these frequencies added up? So it's 7 plus 1. That's what that symbol means. So it's 8. And then the last symbol is what you have in the denominator, which is FME. And that is the frequency of the median interval. So this is our median interval. What is the frequency of that interval? It's 14. And you have every value you need. Sorry, let me hide this thing. You have every value you need to plug into this formula. Okay, you substitute all of these values into the formula. And if you do that, you'll get a value of, your median will be 1014.29. That's your median. And how you would interpret that is just like how you did it before. You would say 50% of customers spend less than or equal to this amount. So we would say 50% of shoppers or customers spend up to 1,014.29 cents on groceries. Okay, that's how you calculate it, and that's how you interpret it. Just going to check regarding assignments. How do we use the textbook for reference? Sean, you should reference. I've actually, it's actually the information center services that actually, you can contact them for how to reference. You would reference your textbook. If you want to know more specifically about how to, the style of referencing and how to reference it, then you can contact them, but I'll put their details in the chat. Yeah, so reach out to them if you need to do, if you're not sure about the referencing. Okay. Okay, I'll come back to the chat. I just want to finish up now. Okay, everyone. So we did the mean, we did the median. For the mode, I'm going to talk you through it and I'm going to explain to you how to do it. And that's going to be an exercise for you. All right. So for the mode, there's also a formula. All right. So the formula is, and I'll tell you what page it is in your textbook as well. So the mode is given by the formula OMO plus C into FM minus F minus 1 all over 2 FM minus F minus 1 minus FM plus 1. Okay, if you want to know what these symbols mean, okay, so it's in your textbook. So if you have the 6th edition, it's on page 81 for the 6th edition. And for the 5th edition, it's on page 78 for the 5th edition. Okay, it explains exactly what these symbols are. All right, I want you to go to the textbook and read through what these symbols are. All right, if you're stuck, let me know. What I am going to give you a clue on is how to work out the modal interval. So how to determine which interval the mode would be in. So just like how we did the median interval, we also have the modal interval. Now, if you remember when we started this session for ungrouped data, the mode was the most frequent number. Okay, so the mode was the most frequent number. Okay, so if you're using that same principle here, which interval would have the mode? And these are the clues: most frequent, sorry, most frequent. So that means which one has the highest frequency. And if you look at all your intervals, this interval has the highest frequency. So it happens to be the same interval as the median interval. It's not always the case, but in this example it is. So this is your modal interval. This is your modal interval. And you must figure that out because the values for the formula depend on that interval. So you need to get that interval right first. Just like how we had the symbols in the median interval, for the formula, I'm going to tell you what these symbols mean. Okay, so the OMO is the lowest value of that interval. Of the modal interval. All right, your C is just like before, doesn't change. Okay, it's the class width. It's like how we did it for the median. Then you have the symbol here, FM. This is the frequency of the modal interval. And then you have FM minus 1. Now this is just the frequency of the interval before that. Before the modal interval. And then lastly, the last symbol is FM plus 1. And that's the frequency of the interval after the modal interval. Okay, I'm going to give you the answer and I want you to work towards it. Okay, if you can't figure it out, please drop me an email and I'll talk you through it. But send me your workings. So the answer I want you to work towards is 975. So once you get these values, once you get all of these values, plug it into the formula. Okay, and you should get an answer of 975. All right. Okay, that's what I wanted to cover this evening. Are there any questions, everyone? Anything you want me to go over again? Anything didn't make sense? Good. Oh. All right. Okay, but like I said, please reach out to me. You have my email. If you're not sure about anything, please do let me know. I'll make the recording. I should make it available by tomorrow. Okay, other than that, thanks for joining, everyone. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we will chat soon. You're welcome. Have a good evening.